Good morning, everybody. Hello. Got 78 people here already. I'll give it a moment because we've just been a little delayed getting online today, but still 10 o'clock on the dot. So hello, I was jumping up quickly. Say hello in the chat. It'd be lovely to see and hear from you now. Good morning. Welcome to day 4 of National University Week. What a week it's been. Some of you will already have seen me. My name's Heather. I'm from CareerMap. And kicking us off for today are Callum and Michael from the University of Dundee. So they are here to tell you all about what Scotland has to offer when both living and studying there. So before I hand over to the team, I'll just do a bit of housekeeping. For those of you who haven't found it already, there's a chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. If you have any questions, please pop any in there. We will ask the team the Q&As after the presentation. Hello, Jess. The session is being recorded, so don't worry about missing out on anything. It will be emailed to you, the link to the recording and other so clicks to information will be on there as well. And just a quick note, there will be a poll that we'll be doing at the beginning of the session. So just below where you found the chat button, there's a poll button there. So when you're kind of given the go ahead, head over to there and join us for a fun poll. But yeah, I think that's my cue to disappear. I'll be hanging around in the background and hand over to the team.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for having us here this morning. Delighted to be able to speak to you about study in Scotland. So our presentation today is really to give you an introduction into what it's like to live and study in Scotland, what some of the cities are like in Scotland as well. Myself and Matthew, we actually both work for the University of Dundee, and that's one we know best, so we will talk about that one in a little bit more detail towards the end of the presentation. But in order to kick things off and just have a little icebreaker, I suppose, to get you in the mood and get you thinking about Scotland, we do have a few polls to get started off this morning. So we're going to move straight into one of those just now. Matthew, do you want to start the first poll there?
Yeah, by all means, guys. Hopefully you can understand us okay as well. We are conscious that we have quite thick Scottish accents and we're not always the easiest people to understand on camera. So if you want us to go back to speaking a better version of the Queen's English, please do post up in the chat and tell us that you can't understand us. If you go to the little section polls, we've got a fun quiz that we're going to go through with you. So the first question of that quiz can be found in the poll. And the poll that is up just now is, which of the following was not invented in Scotland? Was it the telephone, radar, the first functional jetpack, or television? So you may or may not be aware of this, guys, but throughout the centuries, Scotland has given the world basically all of the most important inventions. And you've got to deduce from that information which of these inventions was not actually created in Scotland. So it's pretty even just now looking at the poll. There's only about, I think, a few people who've answered, and it's split evenly between what you guys think was not created in Scotland. Oh, Jason's telling us all clear, and you love the accents. Well, that's wonderful. Hopefully you love the presentation as well, Jason. If you do have questions whilst we're going on, guys, I think you've got that chat function that many of you have obviously already found. So what you got to do in that chat function, just type in the question you want to ask us, and periodically Callum and myself will check it. And if there's sensible questions in there, we'll try and give you answers on air. There we go. So I see quite a few folk have answered the correct answer. So which of the following was not invented in Scotland? The telephone, radar, the first functional jetpack, or television? Unfortunately, we've not created the first functional jetpack in Scotland, but the rest of them actually are all Scottish inventions. So telephone, radar, and television, all the best things in life came from Scottish inventors.
What an innovative country we are up here in Scotland. So I think we'll just move straight on to the second poll. And we're going to focus on some famous Scottish people now. So Gerard Butler, the action man, the Hollywood actor from Scotland, and Nicola Sturgeon were actually classmates, but at which Scottish university? The University of Glasgow, the very prestigious Rob Roy Institute of Higher Learning, the University of Aberdeen, or the University of Stirling? Which university did they actually study at?
For those who are maybe not up on their Scottish politics, Nicola Sturgeon is the current First Minister of Scotland. She's effectively like the devolved Prime Minister of Scotland. Awesome lady in many respects. Well, I suppose that depends on your politics. And Gerard Butler should be known to many of you as the star of various Hollywood movies, including the movie 300, where he played the King of Sparta. It's one of my favourite movies of all time. It's remarkable that a man playing an ancient Greek warrior still speaks with a Glasgow accent, but there we go. Quite a few answers coming in. People seem to be leaning towards the Rob Roy Institute of Higher Learning. I'm really sorry to tell you folks that the Rob Roy Institute of Higher Learning does not exist. We completely made that up. That's not a real university in Scotland, but it's a really fantastic name. A few of you have been lured in. The correct answer is the University of Glasgow. So when they were students in their early 20s, Gerard Butler and Nicola Sturgeon were, in fact, classmates at the University of Glasgow. They may have gone dancing together. They may have had a pint together. We don't know. But they were certainly graduating from the same class in the same year. So that's kind of fun. They both graduated as lawyers, I believe. There we go. Do you want to do the next question, Callum, or shall I set that up?
I think you can continue on to the next one, please, Matthew.
Super duper. So the next question, guys. The world's shortest commercial flight flies between two of the Orkney Islands. The Orkney Isles are ones that are way, way up in the north of Scotland. So there's some various tiny, tiny little islands with maybe only a couple of people that live on them. And there's a commercial flight that flies between several of them. But one of these flights is incredibly short. Just how short is this commercial flight? And again, guys, if you go to that section under polls, if you click on polls, you can answer this question. Is the answer no time at all? The plane drives over a bridge. 1.5 minutes, 33 minutes, or 7 minutes. The shortest commercial flight you can get on as a passenger in the whole wide world between these two tiny little Scottish islands way up in the North Sea. Excellent. And again, folks, if you get any questions at all as the presentation is ongoing, just post them up into that Q&A function. But we're getting decent engagement with the poll, and I can reveal the correct answer is 1.5 minutes. So this tiny little flight from these tiny little islands in a particularly beautiful part of the world. If you ever get the chance to visit the Orkney Isles, guys, I think it's probably one of the most beautiful places on the planet, but a particularly lovely part of Scotland. But that little flight, 90 seconds, the passengers spend in the air. Okay, what other questions have we got for you? So this is just a kind of warm-up exercise, guys, to get you thinking about Scotland and just to kind of get you chatting to us. Hopefully it means we'll get a bit more engagement when it comes to questions later on because we're used to talking to one another. But the next question, which Scottish drink outsells Coca-Cola within Scotland? Is it whiskey, tea, fresh Scottish water, or iron brew? Lots of people jumping on the iron brew option right off the bat. What do you think, Callum? Is this one of the easier questions? This one's a bit harder?
I think most people seem to be onto something here, but there's equally some... All the answers could be correct on this one, I suppose. So there's no fictional answers here, I guess.
No, there are no fictional answers here.
But I can see most people seem to be along the right lines, I think, on this one. But yeah, the correct answer, which 80% of you have identified, is iron brew. So the only country in the world where another soft drink outsells Coca-Cola, and the correct answer is iron brew.
Absolutely. Iron brew, for those who haven't tried it, it's basically orange-coloured sugar in a can. It's one of these ridiculously sugary soft drinks. In fact, a number of years ago, they had to change the recipe for iron brew because in its current format, they couldn't actually sell it as regular soft drinks. They had to market it as energy drink. So they had to reduce their sugar content. It's the closest that the people of Scotland have come to armed revolution in centuries is when they tried to change our iron brew.
National outrage. There was national outrage. It was... But I think we're on to the fifth and final question now. So the film Braveheart chronicles the life and times of which Scottish hero? So quite an old movie now. I think this movie was likely out before some people in this webinar were actually born, but still an iconic movie associated with Scottish history. Although there is some debate how historically correct the movie actually is.
It's very much not historically accurate in any way, shape, or form. But it's a fun action movie, I suppose. So Does the film Braveheart chronicle the life of the Scottish hero King Robert the Bruce? Does it chronicle the life and times of Big Davy from Glasgow? That's truly a movie we should all see. Or does it chronicle the life and times of William Wallace? Or, outside chance, Princess Merida? You tell us in the poll, guys. Again, the little tab on the side of your screen. If you hit the polls tab, you can jump on there and answer this poll. Hopefully you get the right answer. Playing for glory, playing for smarts. I can see that the majority of people have gone for what is in fact the correct answer. So the film Braveheart is all about William Wallace. He's like a Scottish rebel and freedom fighter from the 14th century, or the kind of late 13th century and early 14th century. Princess Merida was the other answer that got some votes. Princess Merida is a fictional character, but you can see her exploits in the movie Brave by Pixar. It's a great movie as well. In fact, Brave is probably a superior film than Braveheart. Recommend that you watch both. Super. I think that's our brief poll finished, Callum. So we're going to move on now, guys, to the presentation. We just thought that'd be a way to kind of interact with you. And it's a bit easier or a bit nicer for you guys to kind of do something interactive and engage rather than just listening to Callum and I speak to you for the next 45 minutes. But I think we're ready to begin our presentation, Callum. Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully it's been a nice introduction. I think we have covered some Scottish stereotypes on there. But if you think of anything else when we're talking about Scotland, anything else you associate with Scotland, then you are welcome to put that in the chat box as well. But I'm going to start off by telling you a little bit about what Scotland is actually like and what a great education system we do have up here in Scotland. So we've been going for over 600 years. So 600 years of excellence in higher education. We actually have 4 ancient universities in Scotland, and that's more than anywhere else in the UK. So you're very much aware of 2 very famous universities in England. You've got Oxford and Cambridge, 2 ancient universities. We actually have 4 ancient universities in Scotland. So amazing achievement for Scotland to have such a prestigious, historic and outstanding tradition and reputation.
Yeah, 4 ancient universities in Scotland, Callum, only 2 ancient universities in England. About the only time you will ever see a scoreboard that reads Scotland 4, England 2.
Excellent. So in terms of what it's like to be a student up in Scotland, or what Scotland is like as a country, we do have amazing landscapes. So you'll have seen on our photos on the last slide, you'll find spectacular landscapes throughout our country. There's lots to do outside of study as well. So there's amazing arts and culture scenes. So we have big music festivals running in Scotland. So we've got the Transmit Festival in Glasgow. So that's a bit like Scotland's version of Glastonbury, and we've had some huge acts come into play in Scotland there. And the major cities of Scotland all attract bands, and we've got a great music scene up here in Scotland as well. If you're more interested in traditional music, we also have the Celtic Connections Music Festival. And if you're a student in Scotland and want to volunteer to be at any of these festivals, sometimes you can get in for free or even get paid to attend some of these events. So we've been boasting a little bit about our reputation in education. It's just a shame that we're not very good at sports, although we do love our sports, and we do have amazing sports facilities throughout Scotland as well. And again, if you're a student at a university in Scotland, you can have access to Olympic standard sports facilities in some cases. Now, we're also incredibly friendly up here, so you're guaranteed a warm welcome if you're a student in Scotland as well. And again, going back to the history side of things, we do love a castle in Scotland as well. As you can see, you've got Falkland Castle in the Kingdom of Fife in the picture there. I think every Scotsman has a favourite castle. My favourite castle is in the northeast of Scotland, and that would be Dunnottar Castle. So if you don't know what Dunnottar Castle is, I've never seen it before, absolute spectacular castle on the east coast of Scotland, and you can even Google it if you don't believe me. And I was actually there just a few weeks ago. Do you have a favourite castle, Matthew, by any chance?
Just got to unmute myself there, Callum. But yeah, I do. So my favourite castle is probably Dunnottar Castle. It's just south of Aberdeen. It's built on a rock that overlooks the sea. It's pretty gorgeous. Like, I don't know if you've already mentioned it.
It's the same as me. I literally just mentioned that. Brilliant. So
we have had a message come in, Callum, that there is someone in the audience who is struggling with our Scottish accents, for which we apologise. So we will do our very, very best to tone it down a bit and make sure that we are more audible and more easily understood to you, because I think we maybe have some students who are joining us where English might not be their first language.
Okay, yeah, we'll do our best to try and speak as clearly as possible for the remainder of the presentation. Brilliant. So that's a little bit of what Scotland's like. Matthew, I think you're going to tell us how to get to Scotland now. And we apologise to anyone who is tuning in who actually is in Scotland just now, but I think you're going to tell us how to get there. And even we are aware that Dundee, not everyone in Scotland has been to Dundee, and we have been actually asked before how to get to Dundee from people already within Scotland. So we'll provide some absolute clarity here about how to get to Scotland, I think.
Yeah, I think we'll start with, if you're from very far afield, Scotland's got two big international airports in Edinburgh and Glasgow, where you can fly to like a bunch of European destinations. So you can get flights to Paris or Schiphol in Amsterdam. There's all sorts of places you can join us from internationally. We do quite a lot of international flights now for a small country, which is really good to see. If you're driving to us from the north of England, you can drive to Scotland in about 4 or 5 hours. You can make it all the way to central Scotland in about 5. If you find yourself in London, you can get to Dundee, certainly, or kind of central Scotland again, because Dundee is located pretty much in the middle of Scotland. You can take a train up, usually from about 6 hours from King's Cross, single service, right the way up over the border to Scotland. Oh, Nicole, you've asked a very pertinent question. Is it easy to fly to Scotland from England? Yes, very easy. So there's a lot of English airports that will do direct flights to Scottish airports. So you can fly from London Gatwick, you can fly from Stansted, you can fly from Heathrow. I believe there are sometimes some short flights even from Manchester to the Scottish airports. You can fly all the way down. Let me get this right. I'm sure I've flown from Southampton before as well. There's lots of regional airports across the UK where you can get easy flights to Scotland. And there's direct flights from Belfast as well.
I was going to answer Megan's question about have you done much hiking in Scotland? So I have actually. So there's some fantastic opportunities to do hiking really throughout Scotland, actually, and even from the major cities, you can get to hills. There's even some hill, like in Dundee, there's actually quite a steep hill that used to be a volcano. But if you want to do more hiking right out in the countryside, absolutely loads of opportunities to do that in Scotland, up in the Highlands. And to be Munros would be our sort of, how high is the Munro, Matthew? I forget how actual high a Munro is. But there are hills over a certain height, and there's, I think, over 200 in Scotland. And again, I think the closest one to Dundee, where I live, would be less than an hour away. A lot of the hills in Scotland as well have good paths because they're well used. So, and universities also have clubs where you can join, and they arrange excursions to the hills and mountains of Scotland at the weekend. So, loads of opportunities to get to the outdoors.
Super. We'll just I'll pause here, guys. We've had another question come in. Peter, you've asked us, you've heard that that going to university in Scotland is free. Is this true? Technically, if you're a Scottish student, so if you're someone who lives, works, or studies in Scotland for about 4 or 5 years before you apply to university, in many cases, the Scottish government will pay your tuition fees for you. So for some students who are themselves Scottish, yep, they can get their tuition fees paid for them by the Scottish government. If that applies to you, wonderful. If not, we've got more information on fees and funding that will be coming up in about 5 or 6 slides time. But if you are lucky enough to be Scottish, then broadly speaking, yes, the Scottish government will pay your tuition fees for you. I don't know if we've got any Scots on this presentation, but maybe it's nice, guys, if you want to just pop up and tell us where you're from. It'd be lovely to see where you're joining us from today. But yeah, if you are Scottish, then the Scottish government in many cases will pay your tuition for you. Awesome. I think we've covered quite extensively, Callum, how to get to Scotland. We're fairly centrally located in the UK. Lots of flights, lots of trains. We're not that far away if you choose to drive. I think we could probably move on to the next slide. Wonderful. So on this slide, guys, we've mapped on some of the higher education institutions you could potentially go and study at in Scotland. There are 19 institutes of higher education across the whole country. We have one of the highest concentrations of universities per head of capita of any city or any country, I ought to say, in Europe. So what this means is we've got really big, diverse student populations. Most Scottish cities won't just have one university, they'll have 2 or 3, or technically Glasgow and Edinburgh have 5 universities each. It means there's a big cultural melting pot in most of our population centres. We are used to welcoming people from not just all over the UK, but all over the world to our cities. And some of our universities really are the best and brightest you can find on this planet, which is really cool. Some ones that you might have heard of already. I guess most people, if you're looking at all at studying in Scotland, you probably have heard of the likes of the University of Glasgow and the University of Edinburgh. Great big ancient Russell Group institutions, usually very highly ranked, really large institutions that offer a wide range of subjects. You'll probably also have heard of the University of St Andrews. So they're another ancient university in Scotland. They are just outside of the city of Dundee on the east coast. They're kind of our neighbours in the higher educational sense. Really excitingly, the University of St Andrews, I think last year were ranked as #1 in the UK. It's the first time in 50 years that a university other than Oxford or Cambridge has made it to the top of the university ranking schemes. And we are delighted that it was a Scottish university that did this. Now, obviously, the University of Dundee is the finest university in the world, but it's nice that St Andrews got that award. We're really pleased for them and delighted for them. Way up north, you've got the University of Aberdeen. They're a really important research-orientated university. They pioneered technology like the MRI scanner. In the city centre of Glasgow, you've got universities like Strathclyde University. They're famous for their engineering and business programmes. So just to drive home how exciting and how wealthy and how prestigious their business school is, the University of Strathclyde built a new business school, and they created it like with solid gold or with kind of gold painted walls. So there's this strange golden skyscraper in the city centre of Glasgow, which is the University of Strathclyde's business school. I'll pause briefly, guys, because I can see we've got like questions coming in, which is great. We love answering your questions. So Emma, you have asked, is there a lot of Scottish students that go to Dundee, or is it 50-50 English students go to? So after Scots, English students are about our biggest demographic on campus, Emma. So Scottish students make up about approximately, I think, 65% of our student body, thereabouts, Callum. Yeah. And then thereafter, the single biggest demographic after that would be English students. And there
is some diversity as well. So we do have like students coming from all over the world to study in Scotland as well. So like you can meet people from other countries, which is really a great thing. If you keep in touch with them, you travel around the world, later on you'll have free accommodation. So there's certainly I really enjoyed the diversity and meeting people from around the world when I was a student.
Yep. Sam, you've asked, does Glasgow have 2 locations? Yes, if you look very closely at that map, Glasgow does have 2 campuses. So they have their main campus, which is in the centre or the east end of Glasgow, I should say. East end of Glasgow? West end of Glasgow.
West end, Matthew. I think you should know that.
I would say, I should know that given that I studied there for 5 years of my life. But yeah, so they have their main campus in the west end of Glasgow, and then they have a satellite campus, which is in the Scottish borders. So yes, the majority of their courses are taught in central Glasgow, though. Ricky, you've asked, is it a campus or city university? So I don't know which university specifically you're talking about, Ricky, but if you'd ask us about which of the universities you mean, I can answer that for you.
I think, there is a variety of universities in Scotland as well. So you'll have some city centre campus universities that are self-contained. You'll have larger universities where they have buildings spread around the city centre. So University of Edinburgh would be a good example of that. And you've got other universities which are like rural campuses, which are a bit more in the countryside, like Stirling, but it's all again in one place. So I think we kind of offer a little bit of everything in Scotland. So generally we can hopefully find what you're looking for.
Chris and Trish, we do want to answer your questions, but we've actually got slides where we talk about accommodation, and we've got another slide where we talk about things like placement years and year abroad. So we will absolutely answer those, but we'll just do it in a couple of slides. But I don't want you to think that we're ignoring your questions. Kelly, Kelly's a great Scottish name, by the way, Kelly. I don't know if you are lucky enough to be Scottish, but yes, Scottish universities do offer bursaries and other financial support like in England. And we'll talk about our financial support that we could offer in this very presentation. So if you tune in for just a couple more minutes, we'll get to that. I think we're ready to move on though, Callum. I think I've given a good overview of our campus universities, our city universities in Scotland. I'll let you take us away from here, shall I?
Yeah, I think we've covered this a little bit already, just due to some of the questions that have come in. Scotland is a really popular destination for students all over the UK, and actually the numbers of students coming in to study in Scotland from England have actually grown in recent years. So it's a very popular place to study, and as I said earlier, we're very welcoming to students from all over the world, really. Now, it is worth noting that the degree structure in Scotland is different than in other parts of the UK. So we actually pioneered the flexible system. So we have a lot of options for students, particularly in the first part of their degree. They can choose to study different subjects. If you're thinking about doing a degree in politics or psychology or English or history, so usually one of the humanities or social sciences subjects, you can choose up to 3 different subjects at universities, at most universities throughout Scotland. So we do have that greater flexibility, especially at the start of your degree. Now, our degree is usually 1 year longer than it is in other parts of the UK. It's typically a 4-year degree in Scotland with that 2 years of flexibility to begin with. And then the final 2 years would focus more in depth in 1 or 2 subjects. So we believe that this is advantageous. We believe the 4 years, who doesn't want to spend an extra year at university, but it gives you more time to do things like study abroad or work placements. Now, we also understand that if you would prefer to do 3 years, like you would do in England or Northern Ireland or other parts of the UK, then that is also possible at Scottish universities as well. We do have advanced entry into second year, which means that the degree would be just 3 years long. So that would be available at most universities throughout Scotland, although the grades are a bit different. And for professional courses like medicine or education, these degrees would still be the same length as in other parts of the UK.
I'm certainly a big advocate of the 4-year structure, Callum. So what it usually means, folks, is that for the first couple of years at university, you can study up to 3 different subjects. So when I came to university to study, I studied English literature because I love Shakespeare. He's my boy. I studied philosophy because I thought it sounded cool. I had never studied philosophy before. And I picked psychology as my 3rd subject. And for the first couple of years, I could chop and change my options. So if you're studying anything like arts or humanities or social sciences, usually you've got that flexible structure for your first couple of years where you can do 3 subjects and just chop and change subjects as you see fit. It's really, really flexible.
Got a really good question from Sally. So do all students get a work placement option? So it really depends on the university, the course that you're studying, as to whether work placement would be available. So you'd really need to do your own research. You can sometimes find out through universities' websites, but if it's not clear, it probably is better to get in touch with the individual universities you're interested in to find out what's on offer in regards to work placements.
Yep. Sam, you've also asked a very pertinent question. Are the entry requirements different for advanced entry? Yes, they are. So Callum spoke about this just a second ago, but to recap, it's a 4-year degree we usually do in Scotland. Advanced entry lets you skip that first year and come into second year, as the name would suggest. Usually we are looking for higher entry requirements. So we're looking for better grades in your A-levels or your BTEC or your International Baccalaureate or whatever it is you study. But for second year entry, advanced entry, we typically look for higher grades. It is more difficult to be accepted because you're applying to a higher level of the course. And Libby, you've asked, is a Scottish degree viewed the same as an English degree by employers in England? A very good question. So a lot of Scottish degrees, because they are 4 years, at the end of the 4-year course, you don't get a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts. Very often you get an MA, so a Master of Arts qualification. Now, that is still an undergraduate degree. It's very similar to a Bachelor of Arts, but it sounds a little bit more impressive because you can walk around calling yourself Libby Master of Arts instead of Libby Bachelor of Arts. And oftentimes, employers in England will look at that degree and think, oh, an extra year of university, you're obviously a smart cookie. And in many cases, the MA, the Master of Arts degree, is more highly regarded by employers. Also, you can introduce yourself at parties as Master of Arts, which is very pretentious, but very awesome. And I'm allowed to say that because I've got one. It is rad.
I think just to also say that the flexibility of the Scottish system, the fact that you've studied more subjects, that you've maybe done work placement or study abroad, is also looked upon favourably by employers as well.
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of really good relevant questions coming in, folks. So if there's anything that you want to ask us, please don't hesitate. Post it up into the chat. It's good to see so many of you engaging, which is awesome. Super. Shall we move on, Callum, to talk about funding? You know, that very exciting bit of the presentation. Do you want to do this slide or do you want to tag me in for this?
Yeah, I can cover this one as well. So it is to point out that the fees in Scotland would be the same if you're applying to university in England. The fees would be £9,250 a year. It's the same if you're going to study in Scotland as well. Now, if you do decide to apply to Scotland, then you still apply to Student Finance England or Student Finance Northern Ireland or Student Finance Wales, depending on which part of the UK you are in. They will, however, provide a loan for your tuition fees, so you don't have to pay anything up front, and you do not have to repay this loan until after you've graduated and you're earning over a certain amount. Now, it does vary depending on the funding body. For Northern Ireland, it's just over 19,000. You begin repaying your student loan. For England and Wales, I think it's currently just over £25,000. At that point is a threshold where you begin to make the repayments. Now, if after 25 years in Northern Ireland there's any balance remaining, it would be written off at that point. For England and Wales, it's 30 years. If there's any balance remaining at that point, it would be written off after 30 years. So there is a degree of flexibility with the loan. It's all done transparently through your employer. And again, it's not like a commercial loan, so it doesn't affect you if you're going for a mortgage or anything like that. So, yeah, fees in Scotland would be £9,250 a year for English, Welsh and Northern Irish students, but no upfront costs, and the repayment scheme is favourable compared to a commercial loan. Now, universities throughout Scotland, we do have our own scholarships and bursaries to students applying from different parts of the UK. So these are available to English, Welsh and Northern Irish students typically. They do vary across universities in Scotland. So I can tell you a little bit about what we offer at the University of Dundee. And if you're interested in other universities, you can find that information out from their website as well. So University of Dundee, we do have scholarships and bursaries up to £7,000 to students, available to students from England, Wales and Northern Ireland. And we made this very simple and easy for you. There's no separate application process. We firstly would have the Discover Dundee scholarships. If you apply to Dundee, you accept your offer and you matriculate at the university, you would receive £2,000 just for turning up. That's available on all courses except for medicine, dentistry, nursing and primary education. If you get AAB, above or equivalent in your A-levels, you would receive £3,000 per year for academic excellence. And if household income is less than £20,000, you would receive a £2,000 bursary. So that would be available on all courses. The first two scholarships, Discover Dundee, Academic Excellence, would not be available on medicine, dentistry, primary education and nursing, although we do have another scholarship for nursing, which would be worth £2,250. So again, that would be automatically awarded and there would be no separate application process. For academic excellence, Trish, GCSEs aren't really taken into consideration. The award is made based on your A-level grades. Brilliant. Do you have anything to add there, Matthew, about scholarships and bursaries, or shall we move on?
Yeah, there's a quick question coming from Chris. So do you have to repay any of these? So no, none of the scholarships and bursaries we've just spoken about need to be repaid. So usually a scholarship or a bursary is money that you just get. It's just free money. If you take out a loan, on the other hand, a loan, the money needs to be repaid, but scholarships and bursaries typically do not have to be repaid. And the ones we've just been speaking about absolutely don't need to be repaid. Matt, you've also asked, are BTECs taken into consideration? Yes. So for most courses at the University of Dundee, we can consider BTECs. And for the Academic Excellence Scholarship, we can also consider BTECs. You just have to get the equivalent grade at BTEC that corresponds to AAB at A level. So I don't know what that is off the top of my head. It might be distinction, merits, but you would have to double check the grade boundaries. I'm not sure of that off the top of my head. Ricky, you've asked, do we do degree apprenticeships? Yes, we do. At the University of Dundee, we do a limited number of degree apprenticeships in kind of science and engineering and computing and business. You need to find a company who are willing to take you on in Dundee. So you'll do some of your work with them and then you'll study at the university some of the time. But yes, we do offer a degree apprenticeship at Dundee. You've just got to be proactive in sourcing the company that would be willing to take you on as you study. Ricky, you're unsure whether to do a normal course or an apprenticeship. That's, of course, up to yourself, Ricky. Like, it's up to you whether that's the right kind of path for you. But if you get any more questions about it, please just post them in the chat. We can certainly try and answer them and help you make your decision. Ricky, can you still stay in student accommodation? I believe so. Yep. If you're one of our degree apprenticeship students, I think you can still live in our student accommodation if you want to. And do we have links with employers? We absolutely do. So at Dundee, we have a strong link to our employers through the Centre for Entrepreneurship and the Career Service. So we've got a whole team of people whose job it is just to connect you with employers in Dundee, and you can take advantage of them as long as you're a student or a graduate of the university. So lots of strong links with employers. Many Scottish universities will have something similar. For us, we call it the Career Service. That's our link to connecting students with employers. Other universities will have something similar. Leo, do you mean that degree apprenticeships are limited by the number of places or the courses? So there's only a few courses you can do as a degree apprenticeship, Leo. They're mostly focused in our kind of engineering and business schools and our computing courses. So they're limited in that sense. There's not too many people who choose to undertake degree apprenticeships. There will be an upper limit, but I don't think we've ever hit that upper limit. Ricky, can you help me find an employer as part of an apprenticeship? Potentially, but we'd usually be looking for you to find that employer within Dundee on your own proactively. But if you were to email our career service and said you were interested in applying, they could possibly give you some pointers. Their information should be on our website, I believe. Anyway, lots of good questions coming in there, folks. If you get anything you do want to ask about finances, because this is quite complicated and there's a lot of numbers we just kind of hurled at you. If you want to find out more about it, you can just tell us or ask us in the chat function.
Do we have any courses in data science or AI? So at University of Dundee, we do offer computer science degree, and there is elements of artificial intelligence in that. There is quite a broad range of modules you can choose from, things like data networking, computer networking, security, games programming, artificial intelligence. So it's quite wide ranging. And again, we do have a master's degree in data science at Dundee as well. But certainly it's something you could find at universities across Scotland. So there's definitely options in that field.
Oh, we've got one more unanswered question, Cal, and then we'll move on. So Mariam, you've asked us, are there any placements for public health students? So I don't believe we offer a course in public health.
I think it's a postgraduate, maybe.
Yeah, we offer a postgraduate program, I think, but that's already for generally people who are qualified health professionals. If that is you, brilliant, cool. Thank you for joining us. But we do offer undergraduate courses in nursing, so in child nursing, adult nursing, and mental health nursing. And there's loads of placements for our nursing students. They start doing their placements almost right off the bat.
Yeah, another question about would I get to meet some employers part of my degree? So yeah, so there's a careers fair once a year at University of Dundee. I'm fairly sure other universities throughout Scotland will run this as well, and employers across many different fields, multinational companies, local companies will attend this, and you'll have the opportunity to speak to them about graduate opportunities. So yeah, absolutely something that would take place at universities throughout Scotland annually.
Super. We're going to pause on that. Like, we're loving the engagement and the questions, guys. Please do keep asking them. But we're going to pause briefly just as we kind of move on and tell you a bit more about Scotland's cities. So we will come back and answer your questions. So don't be afraid to post them up. But we're going to just push pause on it. So, well, just for a couple of minutes while Callum advances the presentation. So we're going to talk now about a couple of the prominent cities that you can study in Scotland to give you a flavour of what goes on there. Will I talk about Edinburgh, Callum, or do you want to talk about Edinburgh?
You can talk about Edinburgh.
Fantastic. So Edinburgh is Scotland's capital city, guys. It is an absolutely gorgeous, ancient city. You can see there's an absolutely tremendous picture of it there in the distance. You can see Edinburgh Castle, which is an absolutely amazing construct. Like, it's been there for a long, long time, hundreds of years, and then built on top of a dormant volcano, which is just amazing. Like I said, Edinburgh is like the capital of Scotland, so the Scottish Parliament buildings are there. There's a really historic old town, like with medieval buildings and tremendous architecture that you can't really find anywhere else in Europe. And in fact, Edinburgh has been named as a UNESCO City of Literature for all the great books that have been written there, and also as a UNESCO City of Architecture, just to contribute to its architectural excellence. So it's a really, really wonderful capital city. Even if you don't go and study in Edinburgh, you can certainly go and visit it. It's got a lot of universities located there. So there's the University of Edinburgh, there's Edinburgh Napier University, there is Heriot-Watt University, there's an art college which is attached to, I believe, the University of Edinburgh. I believe the University of the Highlands and Islands has a campus nearby. Am I leaving anything out, Callum?
No, I think you've covered it all very well. That's a great summary of the fantastic capital city of Scotland.
Yeah. But moving on to the next slide then, Callum. Who's up next? Aberdeen. You can talk about Aberdeen.
Yeah, I did live in Aberdeen once upon a time, so I can tell you a little bit about Aberdeen. So it's known as the Silver City. So most of the buildings in Aberdeen are made from a material called granite. And when the sun comes out in Aberdeen, the buildings give off a sort of sparkly look because of the materials that they're made from. So Aberdeen would be the third biggest city in Scotland. So the population would be approximately 250,000. So a fairly large city. And again, a student city, home to 2 universities. So you've got University of Aberdeen, one of the 4 ancient universities in Scotland, but also Robert Gordon, which would be a newer, more modern institution. Now, Aberdeen as well, you're very close to nature. So you've got Aberdeen Beach, which is just 5 minutes walk from the University of Aberdeen. You're quite close to the outdoors. If you like skiing, you're less than an hour away from one of Scotland's 5 ski centres. And Aberdeen also has a very good local economy. So due to the oil and gas industry, historically, it's known as a very wealthy city, although they are diversifying towards renewable energy nowadays. And apparently, Aberdeen is home to one of the largest concentration of scientists in the UK. So very high population of scientists live there, but also a very high number of Porsche owners live in Aberdeen. So if you dream of owning a sports car one day, you move to Aberdeen and perhaps that could become a reality. Do you want me to continue talking about Stirling as well, Matthew? Or
yeah, you go for it. I'm typing an answer to Emma's question in the chat, but you see we're going great guns, Callum. Keep telling our guests all about
amazing. So, yeah, Stirling would actually be known as the ancient capital of Scotland. So a long, long time ago, it was once upon a time it was Scotland's capital city, and a very historic place. Beautiful place as well. Beautiful part of Scotland, right in the centre of Scotland as well. So it's the gateway to the Highlands. You're also close to Loch Lomond and the Trossachs National Park. Now you've got the William Wallace Monument in that picture there. So William Wallace, who we talked about at the start, a Scottish hero, and that's why he has such a large structure dedicated to his influence on Scotland. Stirling, it would also again be a student city, so you'd have a population of about 80,000 overall. Only one university in Scotland, so again, a fairly high student population. The University of Stirling is slightly outside of Stirling, actually, so it would be located about 4 miles from the city of Stirling itself. And again, it is actually regarded as one of the most beautiful campuses in Europe and has an excellent reputation for sports. I think you should talk about Glasgow, Matthew. So you were a student there at one point.
Yeah, well, I spent most of my life living in Glasgow, actually. So Glasgow is the largest city in Scotland. There's about 600,000 people that live in Glasgow. So even by Scottish standards, it's quite a big city. And on a global scale, it's not massive, but it's the only city for me in Scotland that feels properly like a metropolis. Now, whereas Edinburgh is a UNESCO city of architecture and literature, Glasgow is one of only a handful of UNESCO cities of music. There's something like over 100 live venues in Glasgow. There's acts that take place every single night of the week. And now that COVID is hopefully going away a little bit, those acts are starting to resume. You can go to the opera one night and then you can go down the street to another venue the next night and go and see a metal band like Metallica or Megadeth. And it all happens within one city, which is absolutely tremendous. So there's lots of really, really good universities in Glasgow, like the University of Glasgow, Glasgow Caledonian University, the University of the West of Scotland, Strathclyde University. There's the Glasgow School of Art. Whatever it is you want to study, there will be an opportunity for you to pursue that within Glasgow. Historically, Glasgow was known as the second city of the empire. It's got a really, really strong tradition of heavy industry and shipbuilding. There's an awful lot that went on in Glasgow during the Industrial Revolution, and now the city's come back and reinvented itself in the 20th century. Always something going on, a really lively, really lived-in environment. I absolutely love Glasgow, and if anyone's got any follow-up questions about it, I will rave about how great it is all the live long day. We have a few more questions coming in that we'll just answer briefly, folks, while we're talking about all these cities. So someone has asked how far away all these places are from the uni. I assume by the uni they mean the University of Dundee, which is what Callum and I are here to talk about primarily. So most of these cities are about an hour from Dundee. You're about an hour and a half in the car from Dundee to Glasgow or Edinburgh. Dundee's fairly central within Scotland, and maybe an hour and 20 minutes from Dundee up the coast to Aberdeen. So if you look at a map of Scotland, we're not a very big country, guys. Most of our population is concentrated in the kind of middle of the country. It's really easy to get from any of these places to the next place or the next big city. A lot more questions coming in, though. So Emma, have you ever done the Scotland version of Route 66? I can't remember what it's called. So there's a wonderful route you can take in Scotland called the North Coast 500, where it's a 500-mile round trip where you go basically around the north coast of Scotland, stopping off at some absolutely gorgeous like vistas, some really, really nice bits of coastline, some kind of lovely wee towns where you can just kind of camp, or you can stay in hostels or in hotels. It's really, really popular through the Scottish Highlands. We've got some of the most gorgeous scenery ever. You can find mountains and lochs and lakes and streams and rivers. It's called the North Coast 500. And if you ever get the chance to do it, absolutely go and give it a shot. I've done a chunk of it because 500 miles is a long way, but I've done bits of it and I've never been disappointed.
I was just going to answer Neil's question there, Neil Harris. I'm interested in a market placement year in the whisky industry. Do we have any links? So again, it could be possible. I'm not aware of any specific links that we'd have there, but I think specific queries like that, the career service can help facilitate things like that. So you will find career services, universities throughout Scotland. And if you're looking for a specific placement like that, then that's something that we could definitely help to organise.
It would also be remiss of us not to point out, so Heriot-Watt University, so the University of Heriot-Watt in Edinburgh, they actually have a specific course that's just in brewing and distilling. So you can join their course and they teach you how to distill and they teach you how to brew. So if you're looking to enter the whiskey industry as a distiller, then there's actually a course in Scotland that lets you do that, which is just awesome. So go check out Heriot-Watt's website. I'm sure you can learn more about it.
And there was 2 graduates from that course that started Brewdog. So there you go.
Outstanding. Super. Should we keep going for now, Caleb? There's still questions coming in.
We'll keep going. I think we're on to Dundee now. So I think, as I said earlier, myself and Matthew, we work at the University of Dundee. So we do have a little bit more information about the city, University of Dundee, what courses you can study. And for the last 10, 15 minutes or so that we have here, we are going to focus on that. So I think someone did say earlier, which city in Scotland has the best weather? And that actually is the city of Dundee, the sunniest city in Scotland, with 66 whole days of sunshine every year. The sunniest and the driest city in Scotland award goes to the city of Dundee. So, so Dundee, again, like the other cities we've talked about really throughout the presentation, 2 universities in Dundee, vibrant student city, high student population. Also, there's been significant investment over recent years. We're currently in the midst of a $1 billion riverfront redevelopment project, which is aimed at connecting the riverfront to the city centre. The flagship project there has been the V&A Museum, so the V&A Victoria Albert Museum. That's a world-famous museum in London. And in 2018, we opened the V&A Dundee, which has been a hugely successful project and has attracted over 1 million visitors to Dundee, have gone there, and it's put Dundee on the map as a tourist destination. But we haven't stopped there. We're also bringing the Eden Project, which is based in Cornwall. And the Eden Project is coming to Dundee in 2025 now, I believe. So they're turning an old gasworks into a giant indoor rainforest. So that's a really exciting future project for the city of Dundee as well. We also received the Unesco City of Design Accolades. So UNESCO City of Design, that's due to the design heritage, the innovation, the inventions that have come out of Dundee over the years. So other cities worldwide, there's only 14, by the way, that have UNESCO City of Design status. You've got Budapest in Hungary, you've got Montreal in Canada, you've got Shanghai in China, and you've got Dundee as well, named as a UNESCO City of Design. Brilliant. So what's it like to live in Dundee? And again, we offer a very high quality of life in Dundee, similar to other Scottish cities. So there's lots to do outside of study. You've got great nightlife, shopping. There's lots of supermarkets near the universities as well. So you've got restaurants from all over the world. So you've got Indian, Chinese cuisine. We even have Lebanese tapas in Dundee as well. There's a fantastic tapas bar in Broughty Ferry, which joins on to Dundee for Spanish tapas. So you can find some excellent restaurants, laid-back cafes close to the university, and also it's known as one of the safest cities to be, the safest and most affordable cities to be a student at in all of the UK. Brilliant. So I think you'll probably tell us a little bit about our campus now, Matthew.
Yeah, I sure can. So Dundee's a medium-sized institution, folks. We are not too big. We're not too small. We have about 12,000 students on campus. I think someone was asking this earlier on, how many students we have. Now you know, we've got 12,000. We are medium-sized. So the largest university in Scotland is Edinburgh. They've got about 40,000 students on campus. And the smallest universities are the likes of Queen Margaret University and Aberdeen University, who only have 3,000 or 4,000 students each. We like to think we are big enough to be vibrant and exciting, but not so huge that you'll be lost amongst tens and tens of thousands of other students. We are a campus university. We are very proud of the fact that we are a campus institution. So our halls of residence, our laboratories, our libraries, our lecture theatres, all of them are located in one place. And it means we feel like very much like a student village. There's a lovely sense of community on campus. And it's one of the reasons why historically we've had such high student satisfaction. In fact, in 2020, we were named University of the Year for student satisfaction. And I think our campus setup, the kind of student village feel that we spoke about, that's a big part of why our students come to us and they just enjoy studying at the University of Dundee, and their experience is broadly very positive. Now, we began life as the University College of the University of St Andrews. So about 150 years ago, we were set up as a University College of St Andrews. So we can trace our heritage all the way back through St Andrews with our ancient teaching styles. They're one of the oldest universities in the world, and we can draw on that academic heritage. However, about 50 years ago, we broke off from St Andrews. We gained our independence, unlike the rest of Scotland. But what it does mean is we have a very unique feel as a university because we have all that ancient tradition from the St Andrews influence. But then having only existed for about 50 years on our own, we feel like a very young university at the same time, at least in university terms. It's a nice kind of blend of both worlds, a very unique feel. Not many other universities have this kind of heritage and genetic makeup, if you like, as Dundee does. Yeah, I think that's enough about our campus. Callum, do you want to move on to the next slide?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to continue, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I absolutely can, yeah. So in terms of student experience, guys, we have almost 200 different clubs and societies. No matter what it is that you are into, we will have club or society for you. So we have a Family Guy Appreciation Society. We have a fencing club, a skydiving team. My personal favorite is the Tea Drinkers Appreciation Society. That's for people who appreciate tea, not for people who appreciate tea. But this is where they come to their society meetings with their favorite cup of tea and some biscuits, and they just sit down, have a nice cup of tea, and discuss how lovely tea is. And that just sounds delightful to me. Basically, whatever it is you're into, there will be other weird, wonderful people who are interested in the thing that you're into. Now, we have a really large sports union, so we've got about 50 teams, ranging from the standard stuff. We do badminton and rugby and netball and hockey and football and all the conventional sports. But then we have some weird ones too. For a while, we had an ultimate frisbee team. I think we briefly had a Quidditch team as well. There's all different sports you can pursue. We've got a swimming pool, a state-of-the-art gym. If you're an elite athlete, we can put support in place for your training regimes. If you're competing at a national level or maybe an international level, we can set special coaches aside just to make sure that you're as strong and as fast and as efficient at your sport as you can be. So yeah, that's our kind of student experience, I guess, about our clubs and societies. Do you want me to talk about accommodation, Callum, or do you want to talk about accommodation?
Yeah, I can give a quick run through a bit of accommodation. And indeed, every university in Scotland does have student accommodation. It can vary in styles. You'll have some self-catered options, which means you have to do all of your own cooking, or catered, where the cooking is done for you. It tends to be a bit more expensive for obvious reasons. You'll also find that I think student accommodation has greatly increased in quality since I was a student. So you'll find a lot of accommodation now is en suite, which means you have your own room, your own bathroom, and you share a kitchen and living area. And indeed, all of our accommodation at Dundee is en suite. So again, you'll find accommodation on campus. So you'll be right in the heart of student life with a 1 minute walk to class, wake up at 5 to 9, still in class for 9 o'clock. So that's absolutely ideal. And you'll find at other times the accommodation might be a short walk from the university. However, in some cases, you might have to make a short bus journey to your classes. So it really does depend on the university as to where the accommodation is located. Chris, so are all rooms en suite? So at University of Dundee, they are, but not at all universities. So for accommodation, I would encourage you to do your own research to find out exactly what's on offer in terms of location, price, en suite, self-catered, catered accommodation. It does vary across universities. Brilliant. So that's a quick summary of accommodation. I think we've got about 5 minutes left here, so we are just going to give a brief summary of some of the courses that we offer at the University of Dundee. So we have an absolutely fantastic art school. We're one of 4 art schools in Scotland. Very good reputation. Lots of different specialisms we have in our art school, from fine art to jewellery to animation to graphic design. Great facilities, from 3D printing to laser cutting technology. We've got woodwork and metalwork rooms as well. And our final year students, actually, we have one of the largest degree shows in all of the UK, where our final year students showcase their final year work. That's actually been running at the moment, and we'd attract approximately 10,000 visitors from the local area. And we encourage our students to be entrepreneurial as part of their degree. And indeed, one of our students actually made a sculpture of a horse, which sold for £4,000 at one of our degree shows in recent years. Do you want to talk a little bit about our health courses, Matthew?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think recently, guys, we've been ranked in the top 100 universities in the world for nursing. We're consistently first in the UK for medicine and dentistry. So for 2 years in a row, we were ranked first for dentistry. For medicine, for rankings, for my experience, we have never dropped out of the top 5. Mostly because, like, our nurses and our doctors get trained at Ninewells Teaching Hospital. It's one of the biggest teaching hospitals anywhere in Europe. So you're just immersed in clinical practice right from the get-go. Our dentists use advanced phantom head technology. We're one of the very few universities that have the facilities to do that. And the dental school is home to my favorite ever fact about the University of Dundee. So I'm guessing that everyone on this call will have heard of Jay-Z, the rapper, the music producer, the husband of Beyonce. Well, his dentist is a graduate of the University of Dundee. Take that, St Andrews. If you want the clinical expertise to be dentist to the stars, we can give you those skills. There you go, Cam. I'll tag you in for some of our professional degrees then.
I don't know how to follow that up, Matthew. I can't top the Jay-Z's dentist. So, but anyway, other professional degrees. Yep, we've got a few options here as well. So we've got social work, education. We have an excellent law school at the University of Dundee as well, so highly rated. We do English law at Dundee as well. So if you're looking to go and study in Scotland but return and practice law in England or Northern Ireland, then our English law degree provides the opportunity to do that. We also have the dual qualifying in Scots and English law as well. We have quite a variety of degrees in our business schools. We have business management, international business, finance, accountancy as well, and these are accredited degrees too. And life sciences, science and engineering as well. So we have some excellent facilities and technology and lab facilities for those courses. And our research in life sciences is highly renowned. So we have had the first cancer research centre in the UK. We do world-leading research into diabetes and tropical diseases such as malaria. And we have a lot of collaboration with major pharmaceutical companies. And the courses on this slide are where we can provide the most flexibility. So courses like politics, psychology, geography, English, creative writing. You can generally choose up to 3 of these subjects in first and second year to find out what you're most interested in and what you're best at as well. And that is a very brief summary of the courses we do at Dundee. Indeed, in Scotland, we have approximately 4,000 different degree combinations. So almost a question of what you can't study, but there's just a wee taster as to what we offer at the University of Dundee. And again, you can do your own research to find out more after this presentation.
Indeed. I'm just going to say, unfortunately, guys, I need to head off to another call, but I leave you in Callum's very capable hands for the last few slides. It's been a real pleasure. Callum, you can happily close us out, I'm sure. But take care, everyone, and hopefully we'll see you at Dundee very soon.
Brilliant. Thanks very much for your input and humour this morning, Matthew. So, yeah, just to conclude, really, in terms of application deadlines when you need to apply, basically, University of Dundee, UCAS deadline would be the same for all universities. Medicine Dentistry, that's coming up on the 15th of October. For all other courses, it's the 15th of January. I see some people are leaving the calls now. So thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure to speak to you this morning. And just finally, if you want to find out more, we do have open days coming up, in-person open days, real-life physical open days on campus, starting this summer and running through to the autumn. And typically that is the open day season for most universities in Scotland. So if you are thinking about a trip up to Scotland to try and visit a few universities, you can generally tie in a few open days in one visit. But we also offer individual visits if you are just looking to come up, and out with our open days, we can accommodate that as well. But that really takes me to the end of the presentation. I think we've concluded right on time, and really appreciate your attention, all your questions, some absolutely fantastic questions this morning. So thanks again, and just like to wish everyone the best of luck with their studies and your future choices.
Brilliant. Thank you, Callum. I would just like to say thank you from CareerMap to everybody here who's joined. What a lovely bunch it's been. Thanks for all of your questions. And I think that you've done a great job, Callum and Matthew, of answering them more brilliantly. So thank you for taking part, everybody. Still, National University Week has sessions running throughout the rest of the day and tomorrow, so please join us. Look on the event section of our website to take a look at what's coming up. But Callum, thank you very much. What a wonderful presentation. Have a lovely afternoon, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.